Hey, Shaun, how is morning in Miami?
Morning in Miami. This is what we call late night.
How is it late night?
Oh, most people haven't gone to bed yet.
Oh, okay. So you'll be joining us.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It is 6 p.m. Baltic time, correct?
6 p.m. Baltic time. Yeah,
All right.
it's getting, the night is coming. It's getting late here.
All right. Well,
So,
it's gonna be solid. It'll be
yeah.
it'll be a nice dinner nightcap. We'll see.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be. I guess it's gonna be, morning evening show. Just
Listen,
because.
works for me. Regardless, we're gonna make it entertaining. We're gonna make it educational. We're gonna make it enlightening. It's gonna be fun. It's on an important topic, as everyone very well knows.
Okay. So let's start. Just tell us a little bit why it's Founder Fortitude. Where is it coming from?
Well, I mean, so Founder Fortitude, why I came up with this idea is essentially they teach you everything about entrepreneurship in every incubator, accelerator, book, podcast, everything, tweet, meme, show, but they don't teach you what it's like to get denied, not get a meeting, get, your deck ripped apart, get your idea ripped apart, get yourself ripped apart, get your dream ripped apart. Like all of that is kind of pushed to the side. That's not really taught because instead it's more valuable to find a co-founder, have a minimum viable product, how to scale up, how to gain traction, how to have a burn rate, how to go from 0 to 1, how to have a manageable churn rate, how to exit out. All these great terms, which they're all great. They sound fun. Everyone talks in code, but what it really means is like, these are all the things you have to do. But to get to that, you need to have some sort of inner fortitude, and you need to have, something inside you that keeps pushing back when the world is pushing against you. And a lot of people are lacking that. When they get denied once, okay, kind of hurts. 5 times, okay, it hurts more. 10 times, they won't even go forward with it, and they're in the wrong game. Entrepreneurship or being a creative or whatever it is, you have to get denied probably hundreds and hundreds of times before you get that one yes that you need. And most time you won't even get a yes. And a lot of people have been weaned, especially a Gen Z and especially my generation, millennials, we've been weaned on this, everything is instantaneous. Everything is instantaneous, except success, except money. You get anything else, food, hotels, cars, anything you want, apps. But when it comes to, success, you can't summon it. When it comes to, praise, I mean, yeah, you can buy a bunch of bots, but it's not really going to do much. You need fortitude, and it's probably the most lacking quality, I think, in not only entrepreneurs, but I think in society. I think, it's an issue, and and as a species, we've always had fortitude within us. It has always been, you have to have fortitude to just exist. And I feel like especially in the past 10 to 15 years, people don't want to talk about fortitude. People want to talk about, all the good stuff, all the fun stuff, but not like the painful stuff. They want to pivot from the painful stuff. So fortitude is needed. I mean, it's the one quality that is not taught and has to be experienced. And nobody wants to take the medicine. Nobody wants to fail in front of a crowd. Nobody wants to get beat up. Nobody wants to suffer. And suffering is essentially, I think, the highest quality that one can aspire to. I mean, there's a quote by Dostoevsky from Crime and Punishment, Brothers Karamazov, The Idiot, all the books, where he says, the only thing I dread is not to be worthy of my sufferings. And a lot of people will run the other way. Sufferings? Hold on a sec. That's why I became an entrepreneur, not to suffer. It's like, you're in the wrong game, bro.
Oh yeah, that's the story of, successful success, as I call it, because everywhere you go, like whatever, like YouTube shows, Facebook, everywhere you see this. Okay, these entrepreneurs, they're very successful. They have this yachts, they have this, whatever. They go into the conferences, to talk there from the stage, and then their faces are in all the magazines, and everyone knows them. If you kind of try to think it through, how many actual entrepreneurs do you see on this like magazine covers? How many of them are actually owning, yachts or something? And what is the actual pressure that those people are feeling every day when they're building their successful business? What's inside?
I
Because a
mean,
lot of startups, they have no idea.
a lot more like majority. Well, there's something that's kind of shifted over the years. You know, I'm old school. When I was an entrepreneur, it was like a crackpot, a crank. Why don't you get a real job? You know, now it's like a cool thing to be. You know, it's cool to be an entrepreneur. It's cool to be a founder. Oh, it's so awesome. There's a religiosity associated with being a founder. And essentially, you know, people need to have a reality check because, you know, one, there's 582 million entrepreneurs in the world. That's the latest statistic. 582 million. How many unicorns are there? Like on average, how many unicorns? Less than what, 200 maybe? How many people are scaling up to a Series A, Series B, Series C? The majority of startups fail within the first year. The majority of startups are burning money. The majority of startups just don't profit. You know, there's been so many that people that were hot for a minute, they were hot and then they just vanished. They kind of closed up shop. And a lot of people don't realize that it's extremely, extremely hard to be successful. And people are not focusing on the business and they're not focusing on themselves and they're not focusing on their customers. They're focusing on, you know, having the giant yacht with the mini yacht that leads you to the giant yacht that leads you from, you know, the mansion with the 5 acres of lawn on the ocean where you need the GPS on the lawnmower in case you get lost mowing the lawn. Everyone's focused on the wrong stuff. Like to get to that level, you need to have so many boxes checked, you know, and a lot of people don't realize that they want what has been kind of the pop culture aspect of entrepreneurship, which is, you know, the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, everybody's smiling. And, you know, I equate entrepreneurship with working out. If you're in the gym and you're working out, you're not smiling. Okay. You're hurting. Okay. You're crying, you're sweating, you're grunting, you're snorting, you're vomiting. In some cases, you're praying. Same thing with entrepreneurship. It's only when you're smiling, when you've made it, when you're in the magazine, when you know, it's all great. I love being an entrepreneur. No, it's like anything else. Unless you're in the little 1% that actually make it, it kind of sucks. And we have comments in the chat. I encourage everyone to just comment in the chat. And I encourage everyone to ask questions. And I encourage everyone, if you want to network, show your LinkedIn, because a lot of people here are founders. You know, we have investors. There could be relationships formed out of it. So go crazy in the chat and I'll answer any questions that you want. Anyways, back to you.
Well, yeah, talking about this, a lot of people are coming to the entrepreneurship with a very wrong idea, right? I talked to a friend of mine a couple of days ago, and she's a freelance photographer. And she said like, oh, I'm, you know, sick and tired of this stuff, you know, looking for the customers, doing all of this. I wanna create a startup. You're working with a startup as a startup accelerator. Can you help me? I need to kind of develop some idea, right? And after this, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to have a lot of money like coming in and everything. And my life is going to be fun because finally I have a startup and I'll get. And then I was like, look, why don't you become a belly dancer? Because if you're a really famous belly dancer, you know, kind of everyone knows you. You get a lot of money coming in, a lot of like people admiring you and everything. And she said like, but I'm 50 and like, I don't have, you know, I physically can't become a belly dancer. And I said like, I'm not built for it. And ask her, okay, what makes you think that you're built to be an entrepreneur? You hate talking to your customers as a freelance photographer. You can't make another call to the customer to, you know, to clear up some details or something. So what makes you think you're going to be a person who is going to build a unicorn startup? And she was like, well, I thought, you know, everyone is doing this and it's fun.
First off, just because everyone's doing it doesn't make it, you know, right. That's number one. Two, Carl Jung once famously said, and I love this quote, that try as they might, a million zeros never add up to one. Okay. And three, it's not fun. Okay. You don't start a company because, you know, it's going to be fun or that you want to get the Ferrari. You start a company because you have an idea that consumes you. It consumes you. You know, there's from two people have known this throughout history that there is something that's consuming us that has to be brought out. So, you know, essentially, you know, 2,000 years ago, this Gnostic Christian wrote the Gospel of Thomas. And he said 2,000 years ago, if you bring forth what is inside you, it will save you. If you fail to bring forth what is inside you, it will destroy you. You know, so you have these ideas and people need to bring this out. People have something in them that they're willing to take the suffering. They're willing to take, you know, the pain, because this is what it is. You know, whenever I talk to founders, especially younger founders, I tell them that, you know, you only see the end results. You only see the end result and you don't really see everything else that led to that result. And nobody wants to be the first customer, the first supporter, the first investor, the first person to be your friend. Like, trust me, I've dealt with that when I was all the businesses I've started. Nobody wants to be like, oh, awesome, he's doing it. But once you're established, they're always come on. They're going to come on the bandwagon. They're going to love you. But until you get to there, I mean, nobody wants anything to do with you. You are radioactive. You're toxic because, oh, you're just a crazy person with a crazy idea, you know, and it's extremely lonely. Like that's one thing that being a founder, you know, is that it's extremely, extremely lonely and people can't deal with it, you know, and there's always, and especially with the pandemic. Okay. Pandemic, you know, if you couldn't deal with this pandemic of being alone, you're not going to be able to handle being a founder, because being a founder is essentially a lonely position to be in. You know, there's a quote from existential theologian Paul Tillich. I love this quote where he says, language has created the word loneliness to describe the pain of being alone, but language has also created the word solitude to describe the glory of being alone. And you need to have the glory of being alone, and people need to experience that, because it is not when they're among the group that they are going to get their idea. Yes, they might have a flash of insight, but it is usually when they're alone in the corner, staring out the window, wondering what they're doing with their life, that the real realization comes that I'm going to start something. I'm going to try something. And the person that is staring out the window, that is wondering what they're doing with their life, what they're doing with their time, is much closer to an actual startup visionary, even though I hate the term, than, you know, a person that got an MBA, that is trained, that has worked in corporate for 20 years. That other person is so much closer. And, you know, it's essentially, people need to realize that it is lonely. It is hard. You need to have fortitude required, and you have to be worthy of the sufferings. And, you know, if you're not worthy of that, then I don't know what to tell you. You know, Viktor Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that what man needs is not some tensionless state of being. He needs a self-chosen goal that is worth striving for, you know, that is worth suffering for, that gives them meaning. So startup can give you meaning. That could be something. And once you have that, it doesn't matter. There's a point that you reach that, you know, and I've been at this point. I'm actually still at this point. I've never left, where you encounter so many people across the different verticals, and you share your idea and you show it, and you just tend to, you know, you realize and you accept, you know, their opinions, but you don't let them change you, whether it sucks, whether it's not for them, whether it's something that, you know, oh, I'm not dealing with it. You're not ready. It's too early. I mean, you accept it. Most people can't accept it. Most people, if they get, you know, one insult, one bad piece of constructive criticism, they flee, you know, and you need to accept this. You have to, a founder or a creative, or let's just say any person worthy of the victory that they want to claim. Let's just do that. And I'll include everyone, because I know we have people here that are entrepreneurs, but that maybe have an inkling to it. So anyone that wants to achieve a measure of personal success. I don't mean Instagram success. I don't mean Facebook success. I don't mean LinkedIn success. I mean personal success that drives you, that allows you to be content, that allows you to strive and struggle and move forward the sufferings. You know, they need to hear this. They need to understand that you have to have the difference between taking criticism and sticking to your guns, you know, and a lot of people just want to, you know, as you say, hop on the bandwagon. A lot of people just want to be, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur because I hate my boss. Well, you're the boss.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the main, you can't imagine, because I work a lot with these early stage startups. I mean, I've been working with them for quite a while. And that's when ideas say startups are pitching, that's one of the main reasons. Oh, you know, I hate my boss, I hate my job, so I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I have my own statistics. Basically, the startups that actually survive, the startups that actually are moving further, like to Series A and beyond, those founders, there is something, I mean, they really, really do believe in what they're doing. It's something bigger than them. They can't stop doing exactly this product, exactly something, whatever. It keeps them awake at night. They're waking up in the morning like, I should do this anyway. And I've seen them in very many different situations. I've seen them completely broken, you know, no money, no anything, no customers, everything's going so bad. Term sheet with the investors terminated, COVID started, something else happened. Like, for example, I have this travel startup in my portfolio. COVID started, boom, the revenues are zero, but they just won't stop, you know, because it's not about the money. It's not about like having a yacht or something. They just can't stop doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what is needed for anything. Trust me, I've done so many different things. And if you want, go to my LinkedIn. You know, I'm not going to post the link to it. But if you want, I mean, I've done so many different things and I've had so many failures, you know, and there's a quote from the Odyssey the book that nobody read. And I feel like it's like the book everybody needs to read, because if you talk about like startups, you're going to talk about something where it's like, how to scale up to $1 million and the $100 startup and the 4-hour work week and all these other, like, I call them Silicon Valley propaganda tools, where you can only work 4 hours a week. You only need $100. You have all the resources in your phone to start a multi-billion-dollar business right now. What are you waiting for? Start. And, people don't realize how long it takes and how much they actually have to suffer and go through it. So I recommend reading the Odyssey, or at least trying to read the Odyssey, because, it's essentially a story about how to get back home. That's the Odyssey. It's a 10-year journey of trying to get back home. And, there's a quote there that I included in my newsletter, which I'll post the link, because if anyone's not subscribed to my newsletter, it's free. Check it out. You'll dig it. I'll post it in the chat. But essentially, it's from Odysseus. It says, hold on, it's a big one. Let me think. It says, so what if the gods want to shipwreck me across the wine dark sea? I have a heart that is inured to suffering, and I shall steal it once more. For in my day, I've had many bitter defeats and painful experiences on the battlefield and upon the open sea. Let this disaster come. It will just be one more. And that right there is the quote that everyone needs to have. That's the quote that everyone needs to have, because, as a founder, creative, whatever, you are at the mercy of other people that want to work with you, people that want to invest in you, people that want to subscribe to you, people that want to follow you. You are at the mercy of these people. And essentially, you have to have this heart that is steeled for when things don't work out. I mean, my mentality now, after doing this for so long and being involved in so many different things, is, I'll be like, I unequivocally know 100% for a fact that these 20 people don't want anything to do with me. And it only took me 3 weeks of phone calls to figure that out, or being involved with a startup that folded and lost millions of dollars. We made these mistakes and only cost us $3 million. Don't worry about it. It's just money. People don't have that. People literally need to have this kind of state of mind where they can't be destroyed by the defeats and the setbacks. And that's what the fortitude is about. The fortitude is essentially going, okay, I'm starting something, and I don't care what people are going to think. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to, scale the mountains. I'm going to go through the dark forest. I'm going to walk the path. I'm going to forge the path. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how many likes it gets online. I don't care what people comment. I don't care if there's strangers telling me that it's a dumb idea. I'm just going to do it. And that right there is a superpower. Most people don't have that because they're used to everybody just being, having themselves being evaluated. And I feel like this evaluation, because essentially social media is an evaluation tool. That's all it is. It's something to show the world what you're doing, what you're working on, and having somebody evaluate you. And a lot of people listen to that like it's gospel, like this is what it is. And if you go back to anybody, artist, philosopher, psychologist, founder, CEO, anybody, they would never accomplish anything. It's one of the, examples I always use is that you have Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci in the Renaissance. And like, if they both had social media, you wouldn't have anything, because Michelangelo would be working on the Sistine Chapel, and then he'd look at his phone and be like, oh, look what I'm working on. And it's just like the Sistine Chapel. People are like, let us know when it's done. And then you have Leonardo da Vinci who's working on the Mona Lisa. He's like, well, I can't do this. I'm just painting a woman. And he's working on a whole ceiling. It wouldn't work, because you're constantly being evaluated and comparing yourself with other people. It goes back to what I said earlier, where you have to have this kind of solitude mindset for what you're working on, where you're just, I don't care. I couldn't care less what you think, because I know I have to do this. I have to bring this forth. And, to have this mentality, it takes work. It doesn't come overnight. And it results from having a lot of people telling you, it's just not for me. It's not going to work. I don't think it's right. I think you don't have enough experience. I think that you should be doing something else. My favorite, why don't you get a real job? Why don't, shouldn't you go back to school? Or I don't know, is there still the executive training program at Bloomingdale's? You should check it out. I don't know. Like, these people have said all these things to me. And it's like, if I had listened to any single one of them, I wouldn't be here talking, and I wouldn't have created any of the stuff that I created. And that's my mentality with it.
Yeah. And also there are books about different types of success and everything. And a lot of advice, like 10 tips to the founders that kind of want to raise the unicorn. So you wake up at 8 a.m., then you do yoga, then you do this stuff, then you work for 4 hours. Then you meditate, then you do some different bunch of other stuff. And this is how successful people should live. And this is how, of course, one very successful person is living now, and he's really cool, and he's having all the yachts. The only thing is, all these authors who are writing the books about their background, right? They're doing this, some retrospective stuff. And they actually don't even remember how they felt at the very exact moment when they founded the company. They had zero money, they had zero customers, and
Well,
everyone
that's a footnote.
rejected them.
That's a
Yeah.
paragraph. I mean, it's like this. It's like anything. I mean, everyone gives advice that maybe worked for them and it won't work for other people. Or it's like I woke up here and I wake up every day at 3 a.m. and ate 2 whole chickens and then I work out for 6 hours and then I start my day. And it's like, okay, that's not feasible. And it's like all these, everyone's trying to say like, again, this is what worked for me. And it's like, well, that's great. But you started out at a company called Apple in 1979. I don't think what the advice you're going to give me is going to apply in 2021. So essentially, I mean, books can be very toxic, and I say this as a bibliophile. I say this as someone that reads a lot, especially entrepreneur books, especially self-help books, especially self-transformation books, whatever that means. They're very toxic because they make you take for granted what you already have. And, you can kind of cling to these books. And a lot of these books then have seminars. And then a lot of these seminars have paid retreats. And a lot of these paid retreats have yearly subscription fees to a 10-step program to make yourself the ultimate person, to live your best life and have your best business. And like a lot of that stuff is what you don't want. So what I read a lot, and what I always read is essentially books by people that have kind of been dead for years, if not hundreds, if not thousands of years. They don't have anyone's face on the cover. And if it's their face, it's usually a portrait, a black and white picture, because there was no color pictures, or, a Roman statue or a Greek bust, because it's just people want to conform to something, especially founders. They want to conform to something. And, founders, they begin very anti-conformist, which is great. I'm not going to work with this company. I'm not going to do this. What, you think I have to work with this program that hasn't been updated since 1983? Like it's kind of like I can do better, so that's good. But then once founders start hanging with other founders and joining other groups, they start to conform to the status quo of being an entrepreneur, which is all about, I have to raise pre-seed, or I have to have minimum viable product, or I have to have traction. I have to go from 0 to 1. They start using terms. They start, talking like everyone else talks. They don't focus on what they need to be doing, starting the business, focusing on the business, growing the business, networking with like-minded individuals, having strategic alliances, exploring synergies. They start conforming to a different sense of conformity just for founders. And it's really, really weird. Okay. I've been to a lot of these things, and the way these people think and the way these people talk, I'm just like, shouldn't you be focused on the business? Shouldn't you be focused on something else than, oh, we're all going to get together and go to Bimini for our retreat? You should not be taking a retreat. You should be advancing. You should be advancing. You should be working and striving. You should not be retreating with a bunch of other people, to have like-minded thoughts, and that's a thing also when it comes back to the books, that if you're reading the books that everyone else is reading, you're going to be thinking like everyone else. That's why it's very dangerous because, again, there's a bestseller book that say entrepreneurship, and let's just use lean startup for example. So everyone reads lean startup, but if you don't have a tech company, if you're not in Silicon Valley, lean startup kind of doesn't apply. So why are you reading lean startup? Like that's not for you. Same thing. It's like, why are you reading 0 to 1? If, again, it's a nice book. I have the book, but again, if you're not in that kind of company, and if you're not really, doing what, in tech or anything in that kind of same vector, what's the point? But people like to do it, and people like to cling on it. People like to read memes, and people like to, have slogans, and people like to wear little t-shirts with the slogans and the hats. And they just have this group think. And, founders, again, it's a lonely position. You don't want to be lonely, but you have to, because you have to have these best ideas that come out, that come from it. And what I'm seeing, and I've seen it over the years, and it's only getting worse, is that, you have what I call the Shark Tank effect, or for those in Europe, the Dragon's Den effect, where someone, tunes in 30 minutes late to, a pitch, and then changes the channel 10 minutes later before the next commercial break. And it's like, I'm an expert. I got this. Let's do it. And it's like, that is not how it works. So, it's, again, there's no right way. What works for one person might harm you, and vice versa, so there's no set way. There's only the way that works for you. And a lot of people they don't think in that ways. They think they follow what everyone else is doing. I have to start a company, Delaware C corporation, with this amount of shares. And then I have to, do something in this industry. And because this industry is hot, there's an opportunity there. And it's just like they're following. It's like when the pandemic started, everybody was trying to make their own Zoom. It was just like, we have new tools for communicating. And they didn't realize that, well, there's Zoom, Google Meet, Blue Jeans, Toucan, Uber conference, the phone, whatever happened to that, FaceTime, WhatsApp, Telegram. Like there was already a myriad of choices. And, it's essentially, nobody thinks about that. They're just like, let me get you on the phone so I can show you my product. It's like, I don't want to see your product, because you can't show Zoom to demonstrate another product that's going to be the new Zoom when Zoom is ubiquitous. So, I mean, people like, they just kind of go with the bandwagon. Now it's more like NFTs and crypto and whatever else is going to come from it. I'm sure there's going to be something else that comes, but then that pops up and everyone rushes to that. And, if you want to be, I feel, successful and you want to have this fortitude, you have to do what no one else is doing and that you can bring out and that you can do best and you can kind of stay focused on. And that's where like the big companies come from. It's essentially there's one person that goes their own way and forges their own path and everyone else does it. I mean, if you look at history, I mean, I like to use historical examples. I like to use people that aren't in memes, because it encourages people to do some research and be like, okay, awesome. So we use like Milton Hershey, right? Like before Milton Hershey had this vision and this idea to create, chocolate for all, chocolate was a luxury item. It was, for the rich, and the average person could never eat chocolate. And everyone thought he was crazy to sink all of his own money into this town in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, to make chocolate that everyone can eat that's affordable. But, he stuck to what he thought he wanted to do, and he stuck to the idea that consumed him. And then you have something like Hershey now, which is a ubiquitous thing all over the world. So you need to have this fortitude, and you need to have, the ability to stick to your guns. You need to have this ability to not conform to what everyone else is saying, and go your own way. And I feel like that's why I always constantly tell people, and I constantly kind of ring it into their ears, and it's what I write about. And it's like, you have to kind of, go after what you want to do, go after the idea that consumes you. And a lot of people just, they want to follow what everyone else is doing because that's what it is. It's just, that's the trend.
That's kind of safer because you have all those people around you, right? And probably there is something like you believe that there is this wisdom of a crowd, and they're all talking about, okay, we've all read these books and we are very smart, like startup founders now, and we all know this and this, and you actually don't. You're standing out, but standing out actually means standing alone. Because they are discussing some books, some lean startups, something, and they said like, okay, proper founders should read like 5 books per week, or do
10
whatever,
books a week or something,
or 10 books a week,
up,
or
don't go to sleep, or wake up at 2 a.m. if you go to bed at midnight, and then spend 4 hours again, all this stuff. But there comes a time when you have to act. There comes a time, and acting requires fortitude. Because it's not like you're just going to make you're going to win the gold medal on the first try. And you're going to have to learn to lose. You're going to have to, just learn to lose and learn to get beat up and learn to keep going. I mean, it's like, I lost on national television in front of 10 million people and I'm still here. It's like most people, they can't handle that. They're broken. And they're broken over little things. Nobody wants to invest. Nobody wants to subscribe. Nobody wants to follow me. Nobody wants to support me, and you have to keep, you have to keep going. You have to,
that's my favorite. That's my favorite from Churchill. If you're going through hell, keep going.
Exactly. And most people, they think it's like, they think hell's a small place. No, it's big. It has circles. There's 13 or 12 circles. You got to keep going. And there's one for every, read the Inferno. There's one for every different, sin and whatnot. But yeah, it's essentially like, life is not easy. And, the things that you have now are things that you probably wish that you once had. And the things that you fear most. I mean, Seneca said thousands of years ago that we suffer more in imagination than reality. The things that you fear most, are not as bad. Failure is not as bad. Pain is not as bad. Loss is not as bad. Setbacks are not as bad. They're annoying, but they're not as bad. And, it's essentially, you have to have this ability to go forward and take action and act. More is lost by indecision than a bad decision. Most people are standing on the sidelines and, they're waiting to go on their founder retreat, so they can get the inspiration and the knowledge that can come back and launch something. And it's up to you. You can start right now. Just most people don't want to do it because there's a myriad of other distractions going on right now that they want to, that they want to put their time to. And, time is probably their best resource. And once it's gone forever. And it's nobody realized that. I keep telling them, listen, you have to act now, because a year from now, something's going to happen. There's going to be a new coronavirus. It's going to be, COVID 25. And then you won't be able to leave. You can't not only leave your house, you won't be able to leave your room. It's going to be so, so do something now while you can, don't live a provisional existence.
But there is also the success culture, because everyone is afraid of failure, like, oh no, I can fail because that's going to be the end of my life, the end of my career, the end of my startup or something else. I mean, I have this mental exercise every time, like there is a big failure just in front of me that I can kind of, I'm just jumping from the cliff or some stuff. I'm just thinking, okay, what is going to be to me? Like, how would I feel about this in 5 years, right? So, and then if I think, oh, I'm going to feel terrible, it's going, to completely destroy my life, I'm thinking about the previous failures I had. And I was just like, okay, so now 5 years have passed, like 10 years have passed, like, do I even remember those failures? How did they affected me? Would I trade those failures for something else in my life? And at the end of the day, I understand, no, I won't, because that's the part of my experience. And that's the part of this unique experience that is making you an entrepreneur. Because if you don't have failures, like, you don't have any success. It just doesn't work like this. And you have 99% of failures and then 1% of success. And then this 1% of success probably is going to get you somewhere, but probably not. And it's okay.
I mean, it's essentially, I mean, it goes back to, again, Viktor Frankl. We had a quote where, he said, the things that I'm most proud of are my sufferings, and they're the things that nobody else would be envious of. And that's kind of a thing where we have to get back to as a culture, especially of founders and whatnot, is that you have to be proud of your failures. You have to be proud of taking a chance and it not working out and rolling the dice and risking it all. I mean, that's essentially what it is. And most people don't want that, because, again, we have a culture where failure is shamed, and it's really backwards, because if you go on TikTok, you have someone climbing a bunch of milk cartons while they're doing the funky chicken dances. They light their house on fire and to put it out before the cops come. It gets millions of people and they love it. They're so brave. There's nothing shameful about it. But if you start a company, learn a new skill, try something, and it doesn't work out, you automatically shame yourself, and then other people shame you. So it's so backwards, because at least when you keep trying, you learn and you open yourself up to new experiences and you become mentally stronger. The fortitude comes from that. The fortitude comes from just, going, leaving the safety of the shore. And a lot of people don't want to do it. And, there are many ports in life that you can sail your ship to, but none of them are painless. That's kind of the essentially the issue. And with that being said, let's take some questions from the viewers at home. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. No questions too big, no questions too small, no questions too personal. I'll answer them all, just because I see everyone's connecting, everyone's commenting, everyone's posting their LinkedIn's, which is super dope. For sure, do it. But yeah, any questions, I'll answer them. So thoughts on the E-Myth Revisited? I never read it, to be honest, but so that's thank you for your question. I've never read it. I've never read it. I'll check it out and then I can come back to you. When's the next Founder Fortitude? I'll leave that to my host. When is the next Founder Fortitude?
Well, in 2 weeks, we're going to send invitations to everyone who is here today, and also to some new guests, and it's going to be quite a blast, I guess. Because
okay, so we're going to weeks.
2 weeks, and we're having a special guest, by the way. We're having a person from the venture world, an investor who is kind of, investing in startups. But this person, he or she, I won't say who this person is. So this person doesn't have this typical investor's attitude. Typical investor's attitude, meaning like, I'm the boss sitting on the board of the venture funds, and we're like three very cool 40-ish male guys, white ones, looking at the startups like this. Okay, where is the unicorn and blah blah blah. This guest is going to be completely different.
Okay, so we're gonna have a special guest. So that's so it's coming in a few weeks with a special guest that is going to be out of the box, which is good. We need out of the box people. Everybody lives in the box. Have some fortitude, venture out of the box. So yeah, that's any other questions, throw them in there. I'll talk. I'll try to read the E-Myth Revisited by the next Founder Fortitude, and I'll do it.
That's quite a commitment.
Yeah, that is. I will do it. I will do it. I will read it, or at least I'll read the cliff notes. I will try. Trust me, I'll do it. Okay. Hold on. The most important thing about reading entrepreneurship books, think carefully about it, test it, see if it works. Okay, that is not a question, but I appreciate it. I was going to respond to it. It was too long. I'll go to this one. How many books should you read a week? First off, if you're reading books every week, I applaud you. Okay, I don't mean memes. I don't mean tweets. I don't mean Instagram posts. Actual books. So you should always be reading. That's number one. Two, I used to try and do one book a week. I used to try and do it, but then the books I started getting got much thicker. So there's really no there's really no set amount. I try to read as much as I can. I take notes. If you're subscribed to my newsletter, which I'm going to post in the chat again, I use a lot of the quotes from the newsletter just because they help me. I think they can help you. So here, good. Everyone, feel free to sign up. So that's how many books I read. And then I'm going up because there's another question. Sorry. Founder question. I got a good idea in early round, but 2 years in, I'm depressed and not sure how to proceed. I mean, essentially, again, it goes back to the quote, if you're going through hell, keep going. Most people cannot get an early round. Most people cannot get the door open. Most people cannot, get an email answered, a deck looked at. They cannot get anything. And I feel like, having an early round is one. Someone believes in you. That's a start. Two, elevate that belief and take it and try and accomplish something. I mean, depression is a part of the entrepreneurial journey. It's a part of everyone's journey. Again, if you're not depressed, wondering what you're doing and what's going on and what am I doing with my life and why did I waste my time? And again, it's just very hard now because if you go on Facebook, everybody on Facebook is living their best life. Look at us. We're in Capri and we got a boat and we're doing this and I started a new job and you're here tinkering away on something that's like, what did I do? But that's what it is. I mean, essentially, you have to keep going. Failure and doubt and depression is ubiquitous in entrepreneurship. Ubiquitous. Most of the people I know had terrible times. Not a single entrepreneur I know is like, oh, this is great. We just closed $100 million investment. No, most people are like, I'm running out of money. I've put my own personal finances on the line. I can't get through. I need to raise this money for this next round. I can't survive. I don't want to close up shop. And people need to realize this. They have to know where they're buying a ticket to when they make, the statement of I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And the ticket usually goes through hell, but don't worry, you'll come out on the other side if you stick with it. If you keep going, you cannot stay still. You have to keep moving.
Yeah, talking about the early rounds, we see this situation really, really often because a lot of startups think like this. Okay, I'm going to raise money from the investor and then I won't have any more problems. The thing is that when you raise your first money from the investor, that's exactly the moment when all your problems are starting. And that's like we've seen a lot of startups who just after a Series C, after 3 to 6 months after actually getting the money from the investors on the bank accounts, founders just quit their startups because the pressure was the numbers for them, because they were just like, okay, now I have this investors, I'm responsible, I have this boards, this whatever, and time is running because in 3 or 4 months I have to raise another round and I'm not ready, and I'm also responsible, and there is a team, there are salaries and all this stuff. So it's that's a lot of pressure. I mean, when you start playing this venture game, when you start attracting money from the investors, the happiest time that you have is the time when you haven't attracted any money from the investors yet.
And that's usually the worst time. So again, buckle up. I mean, again, it's, why people want to go on this journey and this, take this adventure, so to speak. It's because they have to have something inside them that they have to bring out, and they have to turn an inner undertaking into an outer reality. And, if you're doing it just to make a lot of money, you're going to be in for, a wake up call, because, a lot of people, again, are very naive, and they think that if they get $20 million in a Series A round, they think that's their salary. They think there's no strings attached. People think that an angel investor is someone that's going to descend from heaven and give them a check right there and say, go forth, and it doesn't work that way. But it's true. It's like, hey, it's great. The clouds have parted. He came down. He gave me a check for $1 million. So again, people don't understand. They really, it's like the best way when I tell people, because I do a lot of lectures to colleges and whatnot. I say, imagine working long hours for free with no benefits, no perks. Usually at a co-working space, meeting with people that don't want to meet with you, and you kind of reciting the same pitch over and over again. And if you can't do that, then this isn't for you, because you have to have something that is so powerful that you're going to believe in. You're going to go after it. You're not going to let anything stop you. And, you're still going to be here. I don't care. Met with him. He said unequivocally, no, fine, going to someone else. Met with this person, didn't want to do it. Fine, going to someone else. You need to have that mentality of just being kind of unstoppable. And that's what it is. And just, I don't want to say don't have a mentality of I don't care, but it's kind of like, I don't care. He wasn't for him. He wasn't the right person for me. And I'm going to do this one way or another. And one thing I like to tell people, especially people that, they read if they're reading TechCrunch or they read Forbes or Entrepreneur and they see all these high valuations and all these exits, there's this fascination with not even having a good business or a good company anymore. You have to be a billionaire. You have to be a billionaire. With most people, they wouldn't know what to do with $10,000, let alone $1 billion. And they have to be a billionaire. And it's this, we have to be valued at $200 billion or $50 billion or $30 billion. And it's like, why don't you be valued at, I don't know, $100? Why don't you start one? Why don't you just get a few customers and scale up from there and try and create something? Why don't you, start something and see how it goes? Don't worry about being the billionaire. Trust me, take it from the guy that's been on the yachts and the penthouses, the mansions and the exotic cars, because my business in Miami for 15 years was doing all that. Take it from me. It's not worth it. What's worth it is to be able to be proud of what you're doing, be confident in what you're doing, enjoy what you're doing, and being able to suffer through what you're doing, knowing that tomorrow's another day and that you won't look back on your life saying, oh, I just wasted the past 10 years, because that's what it comes down to. You want to look back and say, I spent 10 years, they were hell, but at the ninth year and the ninth month, it clicked and it worked, and people, the ninth year, ninth month, by the ninth hour, they're already done. So it's something to just definitely consider. And I tell everyone that. And we have a lot of questions. So I'm gonna go to the next question. What's a good mental
I like
exercise?
the next one, by the way.
Oh, I scrolled up. We have like 5. I'm gonna go in chronological order. Is that cool?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna. All right. What's a good mental exercise that helps develop mental and emotional fortitude? I don't believe in mental exercises. I believe in going out and acting and just putting yourself out there and having the experience of getting beat up. That is what develops fortitude. Loss develops fortitude. Having failures develops fortitude. That's the best way to do it. And I mean, you have to act. Making no decision is worse than a bad decision. You have to go out there and at least learn something from it. Know that 100% unequivocally that I tried to sell umbrellas in a place that it doesn't rain. It didn't work. I mean, you don't have to do that, but at least you'll have the pain of standing out there trying to do something. But that develops fortitude. You have to. There really isn't some exercise that it's like, oh, I have to do this. I feel like the best thing you can do, because every self-help guru is going to say, make your bed. It's the first thing to do in the morning. When I wake up, I don't make my bed. Okay, I wake up, I have other things to do, just because I'm that's what I want to do. Most people, if they can't have that where they have to make the bed, it's like, come on, how are you going to have a big company if you have to start with something so simple? So, there's no real exercises. I don't have a book of exercises. I don't have a game of exercises. I just try. I try things. I invest in stuff on my own to see if they work. And I try not to beat myself up if they don't, because that develops fortitude. And again, I've done stuff that were monumental failures that it would have crushed anyone else. And it wasn't because I was superhuman or that I was born in under favorable circumstances. It was the fact that I tried stuff at an early age and I'm still here. So don't make my mistakes. Don't go on a game show and lose in front of 10 million people. That's one. But if you do, you'll be fine. 2, I mean, I did a party. I always bring this party up called Ghost Ship when I was just turned 18. And it was referred to as the Titanic. It was a party on a boat. And it was just silly because the Titanic had survivors. Mine didn't. And it ruined my reputation. And I lost all my money. And, nobody wanted anything to do with me. And the next day at university, the professor came up to me and said, if I ever wanted to talk, his door was always open. That's how you develop fortitude. And it's say, I'm showing up and I'm going to do it again. So
that's basically how you become an entrepreneur as well, because a lot of people ask, okay, how do I start a startup? What is the book I should read? What shall I get an MBA or something? No, you just start. You actually just start. And after this, you figure out, you fail it first time, you fail for the second time, you fail for the third time, and then you'll figure it out. I mean, this money that you're going to spend on MBA or some other education, at the end of the day, that's the money you have to invest in your startup and try doing something, and then fail a couple of times or even 5 times, because it's inevitable.
But people fail like more times than they realize. Again, like you were learning to walk at one point. You don't remember. You didn't just miraculously walk as soon as you came out of the crib. I'm sure it took a while. You can ask your parents. They probably said, yeah, you were weird. It probably took you 1.5 years to walk, let alone talk. That's all failing, I mean, you probably took a test in school and failed. I know I did 100%. I didn't get a single question right. You probably tried out for something or auditioned for something or tried to play a video game and you lost. I mean, these are all failures. It doesn't really stop anyone. But when it comes to something as a startup or creating something or starting something, it's like, what's the big deal? It's fine. When you put yourself out there, these social media tools that have been engineered for people to like it and evaluate it and everything. When you put yourself out there, you're essentially going to have, no one caring, and you're going to have people that say, oh, that sucked. And you're just opening yourself up. You don't have to put yourself out there just because the box on Twitter says what's on your mind or Facebook asks what's going on, or that you have a phone in your hand doesn't mean you have to post your entire life. Just focus on what you have to do. Don't worry. Work in silence. I mean, I tell everyone to just work in silence. Don't tell everyone what you're doing and come out a year later as a different person. Focus on what you want to do. And you will come out, because I'm just coming out of the coronavirus and people are seeing all the stuff I've done. So proof is in the pudding. You will come out and people say, wow, how did you have the time to do this? What did you do? And it's like, well, I didn't brag about it. I just sat there and did the work. That was it. I didn't take a picture of me doing the work. I didn't have some photo shoot set up with a bunch of startup books. I just did it. I'm not trying to impress people. I'm trying to help people. And above all, I'm trying to help myself. There's a quote, from Hero with a Thousand Faces, Campbell. It says, no one sets out to save the world. You set out to save yourself, but when you save yourself, you save the world. So people need to focus on themselves first, need to focus on what's important to them, and things will happen, but it takes time, and you have to have the fortitude to stick with it, no matter what. And I try to hype people up because I've been in a variety of situations where I've been doing stuff where there's no money and there's no supporters and it's just me. And, I know what it's like. And if you don't have the discipline or the fortitude to do it, you're going to give up. And I feel like you're giving up before you have a chance to really start. You're destroying your idea before it has a chance to really make an impact. And, I feel like there's a mass extinction of ideas because most people post the greatest thing ever on social media. It doesn't get any likes, no shares, nobody cares. And then they give up when they could have the most world-changing thing right in front of them, So you have to work on yourself. You have to work in silence, and you just have to keep going, knowing that this is what I want to do.
Yeah, coming back to the ideas, we have a question about it, how to validate a startup idea. What are some of the things to look out to see if an idea is a good one?
For me personally, is this from a standpoint of me, or is this from a standpoint of an investor or a founder? For me, the idea that you have to validate, one, if it's something that you have to do, you can't, you have to wake up in the middle of the night and you have to run to the computer and you have to, just skip weekends. I feel like if you can skip weekends, if your friends are going to Cancun, when it's safe to travel, if you're all going somewhere and they're like, oh, why aren't you coming? And you can kind of ignore the peer pressure of stop what you're doing. You're a workaholic. If you can ignore all that, that is the idea in itself. Then once you actually get other people involved in that idea, then you have something. Then it's a matter of turning that into something, whether you can profit from it, whether it's something that you need investors for. Because again, a lot of things are skewed because people go to that, oh, we need to do a pre-seed round, friends and family, and friends, family, and fools, bring everyone to give us money. But what if you have an idea that you don't need to even do that? What if you can just do it on your own? And I don't even want to say bootstrap because, again, it's another stupid term. We bootstrapped it because when I hear bootstrap, I just hear nobody wanted to invest in it, so I had to do it myself. I feel like, why can't we just say I started something I'm really passionate about? It's gaining some traction. I don't care about the metrics because I'm doing it myself. It's making me happy. And even if it makes a little bit of money where I can cover my electric bill, my groceries, my car insurance, if I can make something, I think that's great. I don't think it needs to be a $7 billion company. I think it just needs to be something that gives someone personal fulfillment, gives them some money, and it actually helps them help other people and have something that society needs. And it's hard to evaluate an idea also because a lot of times the best ideas that best serve society go against what society stands for. Okay. They go against it. And, a lot of people don't have that kind of, that vision, that genius. Schopenhauer said, talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. So, we need more geniuses. We don't need more talent. Like I said earlier, with all the substitutes for Zoom, We don't need any more substitutes for Zoom. We don't need any more remote work tools. We don't need any stuff that's too crowded, and everything is too crowded. Do something that's not crowded. Do something that, that you can profit from, that gives you meaning, that, you could actually scale up according to yourself, not to some investors, because, the money, if you ever raise money, knows that it comes with a caveat, comes with a timetable. It comes with, a certain expectation. And a lot of people, that's pressure where it's like, I don't know if I can hit those expectations. What am I going to do? And that's to go to another round. And, it's not fun.
Yeah, about validating the idea, actually, like from the standpoint of view of investor and yourself, by the way, you can ask yourself the question, do I if you can execute it and if you want to execute it, and if you can, and if you want to execute it at the same time, go execute it. Because as investors, we don't care about the ideas at all. We don't care about this, nice and beautiful things that are going to change the world and all this bullshit, to be honest. The only thing we care about is execution, something that you've really done. So if you really want to do it, and if you feel that you can do it, even if you feel that if you can do it, but you have some idea how to start, just start it. That's the idea of validation. And because your idea will change. I mean, your idea will evolve. Something else will happen during this entrepreneurial journey. I know a lot of people who started completely different startup than the one that actually raised money and then the one that actually had some users. They started with something and then it changed like 5 times. They pivoted again. And then here it is. Now we're doing this for this audience, and it works.
Yeah. I mean, again, listen, what you want to bring forth is something that, again, probably people can't see but you, and probably people don't get but you. Who would have thought that everybody wanted to be an amateur cab driver when Uber came out? It's like, wow, you want to get into a car with a stranger? Could be an axe murderer. Strangers are going to want to work in their free time to pick up other strangers and take them to destinations. Yeah, that's going to work. And now look what happened. So essentially you have these ideas and you have to bring them out, and again, focus on the idea, focus on making it a reality, focus on taking what's up here and bringing it into reality. And I tell everyone, like, sitting at home complaining is not going to do anything. Try it, do something, take action. I mean, it's just, and sometimes it's hard. Like during the pandemic, a lot of people couldn't take action, and you had to kind of focus on how to deal with being alone and how to deal with using your time wisely. But now that, hopefully things are getting a little better, you can come out and do stuff and maybe take in-person meetings and maybe, actually validate your product. And again, validate it for yourself. See what we can do.
Yeah. And also don't worry about your idea being stolen, because I've heard it from so many startups. So startups, like young founders, are coming up to us and telling us, I have this idea, but I can tell you, we should probably sign an agreement that you won't tell anyone, because I don't want my idea stolen. And at this moment, all the investors started just laughing so hard, because, I mean, idea worth nothing. Like 0% from zero is just zero, right? So if you start executing things, you will be still executing things in your own manner. You'll be doing something that reflects who you are. That's why it's impossible to steal the idea, because the way how you're going to bring this business to life, the startup to life, is going to be unique. It can be stolen. That's about your identity.
Well, that goes back to, I mean, again, it's too much of listening to Instagram and memes and everything. Oh, got to sign an NDA. For what? What do I have to sign an NDA from? And it's like, come on, like what is so crazy? Is it, is it a teleportation system? Is it an antimatter device? Is it a time machine? What is it that I have? No, it's not. It's another tech thing that is another app. Okay. That does something similar to 50 other thousand apps in the app store, So again, people get lost in the process, and they should be just focused on what needs to be done. So next question. Wow, we've got a lot. I like this. I'm not leaving until I answer all the questions. So if you have more, ask them. Okay, so I got to go down because I lose them. Okay, what's your framework for a startup to help them assess if venture capital is a good fit for them at all? I mean, is it really needed? Why can't you do it yourself? I mean, essentially we've come into this point where, again, it's the conformity of entrepreneurship where I have to raise $1 million or I can't do it. And it's like, well, can you do it with $10, $100, $1,000? Can you go on Upwork and hire a team for $3 an hour? Can you, do something with your cousin? Can you do something with your old roommate? There's ways to do it. And if you could put all that together, it's like, why raise? What's the point? Again, it's very hard to raise money. Like, trust me, as someone that have raised money for startups and that connects startups and do stuff, it's very hard to raise money. Everyone's a gangster until it comes to signing a check. Okay. And people and VCs will tell little white lies. Oh, we love it. It's great. I'm going to speak to the partners. I'll follow up with you. Give us a few weeks. I'll talk to you next month. Oh, we're out of the office. Oh, we have a conference. I mean, startups, like being a creative, being a founder, they're positions in industries where you could die from encouragement. You can die from people saying they love it and it's great and you're going to be the best thing ever and you're going to change the world and this is what's really needed. But until someone actually signs a check and gives you that money, you're on your own. And if your idea is that paramount, you have to beg, borrow, or steal a way to get to it, And a lot of people that I know never took venture money and they formed big companies. Nobody wanted to give them money. They got fed up and they figured out a way to deal with it. And they didn't let anything stop them because people right now let things stop them. They let circumstances stop them. Oh, I can't get it because I don't have a college roommate that works in a VC firm. I don't know someone. I'm from this part of the world. There was always some obstacle that people self-impose on themselves to make sure that they set themselves up for failure. And, I say, listen, you have to, if you can't find the circumstances, you make them. That's an old George Bernard Shaw quote where he says, the people that get out of this world find their own circumstance. If they can't find them, they make them. And I feel like we lost a lot of that. I feel like society in general is like, nope, we have to ask for permission to raise money, permission to start a company, permission if it's a good idea, permission to quit the job, permission to see if anyone wants to work. Just nobody wants to make their own kind of environment anymore. Nobody wants to go forward. And it's like, me, I never had a choice. I always had to go forward. I always just made the circumstances and I always was changing and I was always pivoting and I was always seeing what worked. And if something didn't work, I didn't do it. And if something did, I did. It was just, that's how we have to come back to and be, because, right now it's just, we have to ask, oh, well, this investor passed. Maybe it's not a good idea. Robinhood passed like 88 times, everyone thought, and then they had a $50 billion IPO. If they had that mentality, they wouldn't do anything. But that's with every company. Everybody always passes. There's never been a history of a single company going, here, this is great. You're going to love it. Awesome. Here's $10 million. It never works like that. People always pass. That's just how the game is. And if you don't know how to play the game, you're in the wrong game.
Oh, yeah, I have a great case about this one. So I have the startup and portfolio, and they're doing this freeze-dried food for the dogs delivered by subscription and the stuff. And so they started like at some point, developing the recipes, very healthy ones, because dogs are suffering from diabetes and when they eat kibble food and things like this. And at some point, they were kind of signing already the term sheet with the venture fund. And then the venture fund passed on the term sheet. And then they said, like, no, we're not giving you money. And imagine this startup. So the freeze drying technology is expensive, so they can't launch the batch of their products. They can't launch the batch of their products, so they have nothing to deliver to their customers. So they can't actually do anything with their startups. So what they did, they pivoted to frozen food. But again, they didn't have money, to hire, to go to the manufacturer to deliver the first batch. So they literally gathered their friends and they started cooking this dog food on their kitchen and freezing it in their freezer and literally delivering it themselves to all the customers at the top. So this is how they kind of started. And then okay, now we have 10 subscribers. Now we have 20 subscribers. Well, finally we have 50 subscribers and we can afford to go to the manufacturer now and produce our first batch, the frozen batch, because we don't have money for the freeze dried. And then step by step, that's how they did it actually.
Well, that's how you have to do it. Again, you have to be in the trenches. Okay. And the trenches, I'll go back to World War I because it was that's where trench warfare came about. You have to be in the trenches, and the trenches suck. You got poison gas and planes flying over you and tanks and mud and rats and bullets and bombs. But you have to be in the trenches because that's where victory comes. Success belongs to the remnants, to those that are left standing. It doesn't belong to the people that are just like, oh, it'll work out. And then they just quit. You have to stay there and you have to keep taking the blows. And, eventually after some time, you just, hey, I'm still here. That's what I keep saying. I'm still here. All the things that have happened, I'm still here, so, and that's, again, that's what life is about striving forward. It is about moving forward in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the pain. It is not giving in when no one likes your idea or no one wants to work with you. It is finding a way. Find a way, make it happen. And when when you do this, doors open for you, because your mentality changes. You start seeing doors where others see walls, and most people, they don't want to, oh, there's a wall, I have to find another way, and other people like, I'm going through that wall. I'm scaling it. I'm tunneling it. I'm digging it. Probably take 5, 10, maybe 15 years. Nobody's got that mentality anymore. Everyone has to be quick. We have to scale up. We have a timetable. We have to have 1 million subscribers in year 1. Year 2, we have to have 20 million subscribers. Year 3, we want to exit out of for $100 billion IPO. Like, it's insane, and a lot of people, they just don't have the ability to be patient and slowly grow and slowly see what happens. Like the example you used. I mean, that's what it is. Let's get to 10. Let's get to 20. Let's get to 50. I mean, that's when I was doing nightlife, that's how I got my customers. I had one person that really liked it. And then he introduced me to someone else that really liked it. The next thing you know, I had a crowd. And then that crowd brought me a whole crowd. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew, but I didn't get there because I had all this money to spend on advertising or, all this to, I wasn't famous. I didn't have a background. I was just a 17-year-old idiot. I just had an idea, but the idea consumed me. So I'm going to go after it no matter what. And that's what I tell everyone. Go after it no matter what. So yeah, next question. This one's a big one.
Two more left. And then we're inviting all the crowd to join our next Founder Fortitude, episode 2.
So if anyone wants to ask the last question, now's the time. Could you say the avoidance of failure incentivizes success by normalizing the idea that it's okay to fail? Are we potentially preventing the next Zuckerberg or Musk?
I like emerging? This one. I like this one.
You take the question then. You answer it. I'm taking a break. Go ahead. Take it away.
No. I like the question. I wanted you to start. So.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, it's the whole fail and fail fast. It sounds cool, but as the individual has to experience the failure, it's not fun if it's you. If I tell you to go fail fast, a lot of people are like, wait, not me. I like it as a slogan. It looks good as a tattoo. It looks good on my wall, fail and fail fast. But experiencing the failure, that's a whole nother story. Everybody wants to be on an adventure until they're on the adventure. That's the sad part of it. So I don't think so. I think, we're not preventing the next Zuckerberg or Musk. I think there's other factors that are preventing the next Zuckerberg or Musk. I just feel that in my personal experience, you have to plunge in. You have to take the deep dive. You have to take the chance, and you can't worry about the results. There's 2 quotes from Kierkegaard, existentialist Danish philosopher, 19th century. Do it or don't do it. You'll regret both. So that's one. And 2, that if any person on the verge of taking action would give thought to the results of the action, he would never take action.
Exactly.
He would never do it. Because you would think, what could go wrong? What could go right? So again, do it or do not, you're going to regret both. That's simple as that.
Well, I mean, normalizing the failure is fine, because at the end of the day, failure is stigmatized. Failure is so bad. Like, you can't fail. No, you shouldn't. You should be very successful in everything. So if we kind of tell people failure is normal, just kind of try. We don't know if the person will fail. We only know one thing. If the person is going to act, the person will either be successful or just fail. But if the person won't act at all, because the person's afraid of the failure, because oh no, I'll fail. Failing is awful. No, I can't afford it. So I'm just not taking any action. So why not to make it normal? I mean, I think we just fail daily, right? Personally, I fail daily.
I feel hourly. I feel like hourly. Hourly is more for me.
Some healthy routine or some other stuff, we fail every day. So the failure is normal. It doesn't prevent me or you or anyone else to be the next me or Zuckerberg, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't really have regrets. I mean, if I do have regret, it's that I should have known Montreal was an island, so I could have won on Jeopardy. But other than that, it's not because there's so many people I talk to, especially if they're in the crypto scene. I could have been a billionaire because in 2010 I could have had 50,000 Bitcoin. It's always the same thing. If only I knew GameStop in 2011 was going to go up. There's always something like that where they just they throw these regrets upon themselves and they suffer for no reason. You know, they suffer because, you know, it's like they didn't take a chance. But it wasn't like I never had any of that. No one offered me Bitcoin 10 years ago. No one offered me GameStop. No one offered me a part in a company that has then scaled to a Series D and then an IPO. None of that ever happened. You know, and people kind of, you know, they think in their mind because, you know, oh, if only I had taken this. It's like, trust me, you know, everyone says the same thing. I've talked to so many people and they've all said the same thing. They have a story from before something was hot, you know, because there's this whole notion that, oh, they failed to get into it. They failed to get into it, as if they were offered Uber at $1,000 investment that would have turned into $30 million, you know, which didn't happen. But they tend to, you know, internally think that, oh, because I didn't do this, or because, oh, I should have done this, or let me go through social media. Oh, he's doing good. He probably did something I should have. They tend to blame themselves for failures that never even happened. You know, there's plenty of misfortunes in our lives, most of which never occurred. You know, it's always that in our heads we think, oh, you know, it's horrible and I'm a failure for not taking action for the Bitcoin or whatever. It doesn't really work like that. You know, again, those stories they're rampant, and I guarantee that 99% of them are all false. It was they probably heard of Bitcoin, they didn't know how to buy it, or they probably heard of GameStop and it was like, yeah, I'm not buying that. You know, and until it's too late, then it becomes a whole thing. And everybody, when the boat leaves, always says they could have been on the boat. You know, they don't realize that the boat they could have been on was the Titanic. You know, they think it was the good ship Lollipop or something, but most of the time it's the Titanic. Most of the time it's, you know, it's something that is just a shipwreck, or just, you know, it's just something that is just a catastrophe. And there's a quote by Jack Kerouac that says, "You'll never know what worse luck that your bad luck saved you from." You know, so I want to put that out there for everyone just to realize. So was that our last question, or do we have one more?
I think it was quite a wrap up, you know, like we can save some questions for like
if there's
next
one more
episode.
Question, now's the time.
Okay.
If not, if not, then that's all we got. We've been here over an hour. Final thoughts. Go ahead from our illustrious host.
Final thoughts. Well, first of all, I wanted to announce the second episode, like coming into weeks, we'll be sending the invitations to everyone who was here with us today. So stay with us. Next episode, by the way, would be dedicated to some ugly truth about venture investing, you know, like startups, investors, all this stuff. Like, do you even need to get any venture money? What's happening with the startups? Like, what are the incentives of the startups not to take money from the investors? What are the incentives of the investors to invest in startups? What's hidden behind it and everything? As I mentioned, we'll have a guest. And also, Shaun, a couple of words, like something, you know, give people something to think about, like probably, you know, some questions to prepare.
I mean, listen, I tell everyone that comes to these to ask questions. It's not about us, it's about you. And if you can come out of these a little bit more educated, a little bit more enlightened, and a whole lot entertained, I'm happy. You know? So yeah, I want everyone to benefit from these, you know. That's kind of my main focus with it, because if I can help you achieve some sort of fortitude in your creative life, in your startup life, your entrepreneurial life, or your life in general, then my job's done. You know, so yeah. So on that note, I'm Shaun Gold, and for as long as you live, keep learning how to live.
I'm Sandra Goldberg, and I'll see you in the next episode in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone. Good night, everybody.
Bye.